I have struggled to write the script for this video for the last week. I have attempted to start writing and found myself sort of talking in circles about how this would go. But now I just feel the need to sort of get this video, and more specifically the information within it, out there. So I will try and just keep it to the straight facts, but I must also assume that this is the very first time that someone may be engaging with this content. So I will be going a bit more in-depth than normal, and assuming that the person watching this has not been like me and played Destiny 1 and 2 for the past 11 to 12 years. First off, the core of this video, the Garden of Salvation raid chests. Some time ago, I wanted to start getting the Spoils of Conquest, a currency that drops from either doing raid encounters or many of the readily available raid chests on a once per week basis from said chests. While I also believe that certain raid encounters will also give Spoils of Conquest, at the time I am uncertain which ones do and do not. Garden of Salvation's raid chests, so far as I have found, do not, at the time of writing, grant these Spoils of Conquest currency. However, when I was initially beginning to farm this currency, I didn't know this, and I simply ran down the list of all available raid chests, once per week, in order to eventually get 2 of the missing raid exotic items from the Monument to Lost Lights in the tower. For the record, these 2 items were the Always On Time Exotic Sparrow, which essentially draws less aggression from enemies while it is being ridden. That's a unique perk among the vehicles within the game. And the first Destiny 2 raid exotic, Legend of Acrius, which I had never finished in the original version of the game. Back to raid chests, their loot pool is entirely restricted to either raid armor mods, which are only able to be slotted into raid armor specific to the raid that they have come from, and raid loot from completing the associated encounter and having an item drop at least once before. As an example, the original Destiny 1 raid, the Vault of Glass, which has been ported into Destiny 2, has 5 lootable encounters. In the current Edge of Fate era, all of the raids that have come out pre-Edge of Fate expansion may be repeatedly completed, with no weekly restriction upon this completion. Within the Vault of Glass's first 3 encounters on normal mode, the craftable legendary scout rifle, Vision of Confluence, can drop. These encounters are referred to as Confluxes, Oracles, and the Templar. If you have completed any of these first 3 encounters, odds are very high that you will have obtained this weapon, and therefore, all of the raid chests throughout the remainder of this raid, the ones not associated with an encounter, will have it available as a drop in their loot pool. So, what does all of this have to do with the Garden of Salvation raid? As outlined previously, you must complete an associated encounter and have the item drop from completing it first before it will end up as available in the pool of loot for the chests hidden throughout the raid. Garden of Salvation's hidden chests have been dropping loot for me without having needed to complete the associated encounter. For an example, I have only destroyed the final boss of this raid 1 or 2 times only on Titan, and this final encounter is where, according to the loot table you can find online, you have the only place that you can get the raid helmet and raid class item. Defeating the Sanctified Mind is supposed to be the only way. And yet, despite only having completed the raid at the time on a Titan and not getting the helm or class item to drop from those 1 or 2 completions, I have been able to get those 2 missing items on my Titan by utilizing the chests. Swapping in on my other characters, a hunter and a warlock, of which neither has done any of the encounters of this raid, I am able to, once more, obtain armor and weapons I had not previously earned by completing an associated encounter, and instead I have obtained the items from the 2 chests hidden throughout the raid. I have made use of the checkpoint bots to reach these chests. If you wish to get to them, follow along on screen. The checkpoints used are labeled Chest 1 and Sanctified. Alternatively, it is possible to utilize glitches to go out of bounds and reach the chest this way if you are averse to using the bots for whatever reason from the very beginning of the raid. I will not be doing so in this video. I have searched for any news articles, patch notes, This Week at Bungie and This Week in Destiny blog posts for where and when this change occurred, and have been unable to find anything. It is entirely possible that I have missed where and also when this change was implemented to the game, or it could be something else. The only other raid I have been able to do this with is Last Wish, in getting armor I did not previously own on a given character with the weekly chests there. I, at this point, have two theories as to why this is happening for me, but without more data, I cannot confirm either. My first theory is simply that because I have one completion of the raid Garden of Salvation and, by extension, Last Wish, my loot table has simply opened. That one completion of both raids could be the answer to why. My other theory, which sort of contradicts itself, is simply that these chests have opened for anyone to loot. As you may have noticed, they are not dropping spoils of conquest. My justification would be that because the chests have no spoils, you instead get things in your loot pool regardless of encounter completion for the initial drop. The only thing flying in the face of that theory is the Deepstone Crypt raid. This is, for lack of a better term, my control group for this theory. These chests, in common with Garden of Salvation and Last Wish, did not drop Spoils of Conquest, and would instead only drop raid mods. I have not completed the Deepstone Crypt raid at time of writing, as I had pulled away from Destiny 2 Endgame at the time of release. Initially, I had considered that Garden and Last Wish's chests were giving loot because I had obtained all the raid mods that could drop. However, I have done the same thing with Deepstone Crypt, visiting the chests enough times to have obtained all the raid mods, and still those chests do not give their loot. In review, very briefly, Garden of Salvation and Last Wish, giving me loot without needing to complete their encounters. Deepstone Crypt, not, despite a seeming common link between it and the other two of not having spoils in the pool. This is where I am right now. I am turning this information over to the community, and I ask you, please, point me to the articles where this information was unveiled by Bungie and tell me that I am just simply bad at finding information, or that somehow this was shadow dropped into the game with no fanfare, no noise, and nobody noticed. I need more information. If you have or have not completed the Garden of Salvation, and or you have yet to get all of the armor and weapons, could I trouble you to take some time out of your week and go open these chests? My other request is those of you who have completed the Deepstone Crypt to also do the same and to test that pool, to check at this time if the loot is dropping or not under the set conditions I've outlined. Thank you all in advance, both for sticking to the end of this video, and also for those of you that will take this a step further and help collect information. I hand this over to you now. Once again, either utilize the community resource of the checkpoint bots, which, once more, I shall link in the description, or go about getting to the Garden of Salvation chest the old way by glitching through barriers and simply riding to the first chest of Deepstone Crypt to confirm if you get new drops if you have already completed it at least once. Last Wish, if you will all recall, has the Wall of Wishes and takes a decent bit of time every week to do if you also don't want to use the checkpoint bots. Simply input the wishes for Shurochi and Morgeth and check those if you have not completed Last Wish. Once again, thank you. Your time is meaningful, and if you would take some of yours on faith with the discovery I have made, I would appreciate you for doing so. You know, for a video where I was kind of centering it around the Garden of Salvation, Deepstone Crypt, and Last Wish, I sure did use Vault of Glass as a strange example for how raid encounters work, especially for talking about content you're reasonably expected to do solo. Foreshadowing is a narrative device that